Hi, and this is Chris from Lift Kits and Coffee, and today we're going to work on the 2004 Sport Edition V8 4Runner that I've named Alfred. What we're going to do today in preparation for installing the Freedom Off-Road lift kit that arrived just a while ago is to remove the old suspension system known as X-REAS, X-REAS. It was a standard option on the Sport Edition. It was an optional item on the Limited. I don't think it was available on the SR5. But what it is that the front and the back shock absorbers are hydraulically linked, but cross-linked. So passenger front, driver rear, driver front, passenger rear in an X. And so there's hydraulic lines that run between them. And so in order to do that, you have to, the recommended way to do that is to get all four wheels off the ground so that there's no pressure on any shock. And then when you release the hydraulic fluid valves, then you don't get a spray everywhere with the pressure pushing it out of the weight of the vehicle. So I've never done this before, and I'm not even that keen of a mechanic, but we're going to go slow and hopefully get some good video. So if you have to do this, you'll have some reference points. Okay, so this is the control module right here, and there is two fittings here. This first one, you don't want to undo that one. There's a second one that is a fitting that goes right into this control unit, and that's the one we're going to loosen. So I've got some rags ready here in case this thing goes bananas. Let's see what happens. Well, it really wasn't on there very tight, so let's see. Maybe there's no liquid in it. Wouldn't that be surprising? You know what, there's some clips here. I'm gonna pop a couple of these loose. Now these little plastic holders, they're all so brittle from being so old and exposed to the weather all the time. They didn't resist any of that. All right, we're just still on there. So I guess we'll use some fast forward technology when we edit this video. Wow. Nothing came out. Okay, so I just lowered this passenger front tire. It was on this jack stand right here with the wheel off the ground. So I did that just to see if putting pressure on this shock would send fluid over here to the connection I just released. And so what I discovered was no, it did not send any fluid. So it appears that it is locked in the shock absorber if you disconnect at the proper points. So I'm guessing that this line will have a little fluid in it once I loosen the other end, so I need to keep that catch pan there. But I think there's, the pressure that would push it is inside the shock, and so there is a what do they call that, banjo connection right on the shock. But if you follow that away from the shock, probably about a foot or so, there's a union connection that I think is what you need to take apart. So I think the next thing to do is to find that little connection away from the shock here on this on the driver rear and see if we can find that. So let's do it. Okay, so I've got the wheel off and definitely, I got it set up so there's no weight on the hub here or the shock, and so it's fully extended. And there's the banjo connector for the X-REAS line, and you can see it droops down and heads back, and there's your connection. So that's the one we're going to undo right there. And then if you follow that underneath the car, you can see it goes to that control module. There's the back side of the control module where we disconnected the front passenger on the top side of that. So Anyway, let me get some tools and see if we can break this guy loose. Okay, so there is a holder here and a bolt right here, and I think if I take this bolt out and take this off, it'll be a little easier to deal with this guy. So let's see, I am using a 12mm to get this guy out. Bolts out. Let's see if we can bend this guy. Will he come down there? There must be some other bracket in there that I'm not seeing. Okay, there is another bracket back here, right behind that connector, and it's a little challenging to get to, but I've got it started. The bolt's actually at a little bit of an angle, but this is going to take several turns. So, while I do this, I'm going to turn the camera off, so I'll show you the result when it's done. Okay, so yeah, it was one click at a time, but we got that bolt out. And so now that that is free, I think we can just pull this guy down here. And, oh, there's the bolt. And you can see it right there. So I think the place to take it apart is right there. So let me get my wrenches on that one. And let me put the bucket down here just in case I've got it all wrong. So oops. That's round. And I do not have vice grips, so let's see just how tough this is. It's tough enough, so I'm going to have to go look at other tools. Okay, so yes, I do need to invest in some vice grips, but clever also is all right, I suppose. Sometimes you got to make the tools you got work. So, and I think the key is, you know, where these connections are, and they have these big, there's multiple connections here. There's a small one going into this guy and the same on the other side. But I think this is the proper disconnection point that traps all the fluid inside the shock. So hopefully I'm right. But this is going to take more fast forward video. Wow. Yeah, okay, so this is something worth pointing out. There is a little check valve in there, and it has got the liquid trapped in the shock right here. So nothing coming out here, and I imagine there'll be a little bit come out here, but I see another little pin in there, so it looks like the pieces are segmented in such a way that if you take them apart at the right places, then you probably will have minimal fluid. So I think the next thing to do is to disconnect that control module down the line that we were looking at before, and I think that big piece will come off, and you know, this shock is ready to come out, and I got to do the similar thing on the front shock, but that's, you know, the passenger front to driver back. Okay, so we're down here back to that control module. This is where we started. I'm not going to be able to talk and film around traffic. It's getting close to rush hour. But one thing I know, there was a little strap back here that you just had to push the other side, and then it gave that up. And you probably have to use a breaker bar to get these started. I've already done that. Oh yeah, and it is off. All we have is 2 more bolts to take the bracket off. I won't bother you with showing you how to turn that loose. But all right, we got the control module off, and it's only leaking a couple drops. Okay, so here we are on the passenger front side, so the catty corner to the rear that we just disconnected. And so here's the X-REAS coilover, and if you look down there, that's where the hydraulic line comes into the shock, and it wraps around. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus the whole time, and you can see it shoots up, and this one goes up into the engine compartment, and right there is the connection we need to break. All right, and so, but there is a bolt right there holding that bracket on, and I think what I'm going to do is loosen that, take the bracket down, and that'll offer me some better access to that connection. Luckily, I have a really long socket extension here. And well, there you go. So you can see back there is the connection. So we can get it down here where I can manage it a little easier. Certainly. Okay. Well, this one is in a pretty tricky spot for video. I'm trying to shoot it, but this may not come out. And my experience has been these haven't been on here all that tight. So let's see if we can get this guy loose without too much drama. Let's see. Maybe this will be the one. it's hard. All right, I'm not gonna try and shoot this, but that's the connection. Take the big nut off, and you should be isolated here too. Okay, so I got that that connection loose, and what you see hanging there is the part that connects to the strut, and the other end of that line is right there. You can see it. And you know, a couple drops, so not much coming out of this thing. And I'm going to shift and show you where that that line is, because it goes across the back side of the cross member, and you can see the other end of it hanging out over there. So it's free to go, just a matter of disconnecting. So hang on here for a second while I get a better position to show you. Okay, and so if I rattle that, that's the one that we disconnected. So you can see it just goes all the way across that cross member, shoots up into the side panel there, and then goes right there. So you can pull that out. Now I'm not going to bother to do that yet, because I've still got the passenger side to do with the driver front, and I don't think that I'm pretty dirty, but I don't think I'm going to bother shooting that one. The process will be exactly the same. But it takes quite as long when you're doing it with a video camera. So, when I get the other side done and have myself gathered up, I think I'll turn the camera back on and share any final thoughts I have about this process. Okay, well, actually, it's the next day. I ran out of daylight, and it was starting to get a little chilly, so I just wrapped it up and started this afternoon on the other side. So, yeah, it didn't go in. It was the same level of work, and it's kind of windy out here, so I'm sure the audio is going to be affected a little bit. But some notes I just wanted to share. First of all, there's no reason that you have to remove the X-REAS system from your car. You can disconnect the shocks from each line, and just remove the shocks or the coilovers and leave the center control absorber and the hard lines that run to each wheel in place. They won't obstruct anything, but you know, it does weigh some. Those things do weigh a little bit, and I just thought about shedding the weight, and that might be a good thing, so I went ahead and did that. So I have a few notes here I wanted to share with you. So yeah, my car really didn't have a lot of hydraulic fluid in any of the lines, and also this car spent most of its life in the south of the United States, and so it's just not really seen a lot of salt or hard weather. So getting the screws out, you know, all of them broke loose pretty easily. But you know, if your car spent some time in the north or its whole life, or seen some snow and some salt, and you've got rust underbody, you're probably going to need some penetrating oil and just a little more care to get the bolts out. But it's still completely doable with hand tools. And some comments on just the tools and things I ran across doing the job. For the X-REAS system, just about every screw that's in this, well, every screw that I ran into was 12 millimeter. And then I'm gonna jump down here in a second and show you some close-ups of the center control absorber and exactly where I disconnected things. Some other tools, just if you have a general tool set at your house, you know, with some metric sockets, with some extensions and a couple adjustable crescent wrenches, adjustable wrenches, a breaker bar, torque wrench, some channel locks, a flat screwdriver, and then the last thing, you know, I was always expecting to see some hydraulic fluid, and so I used an oil drip pan underneath the connection when I was undoing it, you know, with some cardboard underneath that, and I had a couple rags handy. But let's jump down here and take a look at the center control absorber a little closer, and I can show you the connections that I use to disconnect. All right. Okay, so this is a picture of the center control absorber that's midpoint between the front and the back wheels. I'll be inserting a diagram from the Toyota manual showing where this goes, but this is the end that faces the front, and this is the back of it that would go towards the rear shock absorber, and you can see the connection there and the bracket that would held it in place. But it's only held on by these 3 bolts on the side of the car underneath. And one of the things I wanted to point out is wherever you're disconnecting these hoses, this is the coupling. You can see there's multiple places here where you could disconnect. You know, this is threaded here, and then you've got this coupling here. This is the item that you want to undo. You can see in the end, just like a bicycle tire, there's a little valve in there, and so I'm sure that once it's loaded in a certain direction, it holds it in there and doesn't let it come back out. And so you can see there's another one there, and then this is the end that would go towards to go on the back shock, and here's the other one here. So there's the other center control module just sitting here on the ground. So yeah, there's a bit of hard tubing here and those 2 control modules. The extra thing to know is that the size of this is 22 millimeters. I just used adjustable wrenches or crescent wrenches to undo them. You know, just put one here, one here. But if you've got box wrenchers to use, 22 millimeters is that size. Okay, so that's basically, you know, everything I think I can to share with you on this video. Hope you found it useful. If you learned something, that'd be great. You know, a thumbs up or a like or a subscribe, whatever all those things are, the bell. You know, those are all great things. And maybe if you've got a question that I didn't think to say something about, I probably can offer some sort of answer, because I did do the job and learned a few things I may have failed to mention in this video. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment. I'll do my best to get right back to you on that. And then finally, I would just like to say I am a coffee roaster, and so if you like coffee and you want fresh roasted coffee, check out liftkitcoffee.com. I'll put the little address right here. And yeah, I roast fresh roast. That's redundant. I roast specialty grade coffees, and I do small batch roasting so that everything is very fresh, and I don't keep a lot of stuff on the shelf so that you're getting old coffee that's been sitting around. That's not the idea. So if you'd like to try some coffee, I appreciate you looking me up. And it's a nice, beautiful day out here, and I'll wrap this video up and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.